surrounding. The same obligation is applied to surrounding countries that to ensure that their pollution doesn't flow Samoa's seas in as well. Yeah. Now, in terms of the mining and coastal erosion under Article 13, prevent, reduce, control, and damage, specifically coastal erosion caused by coastal engineering, mining activities, sand removal, land reclamation. Now, if you remember, if we go back to those activities under the ACPMEA3, some of what the Noumea Convention is requiring parties to undertake this program supports. So EIA guidelines on dredging, EIA guidelines on coastal engineering activities. These must all be developed to help member countries and to help parties to the Noumea Convention ensure that they prevent pollution into the convention area, reduce pollution in the convention area, and control pollution into the convention area. So the next question, how does the Noumea Convention apply to you? I mean, what does it have to do with the individual person, to you and me being in this room, to all of us? It's a little diagram of how we think the Noumea Convention might apply to the individual person. Now, as officers in the MNRE, in STA, and in PUMA, the Noumea Convention has everything to do with what you're doing at the moment through your individual performance plans, whether you're an officer or a clerk, or your task from the Noumea Convention right at the top, as well as the SDGs. The SDGs being filtered to the national plans. National plans moving down to your sector plan. You have the National Environment Sector Plan, your corporate plans, your annual management plans, down to your performance plan. So if you're out on the field carrying out an assessment of a development that's being assessed, think of it as all part of the larger scheme or the bigger picture that you're actually contributing to Samoa meeting their obligations under the Noumea Convention. You will be amazed that the work that you're undertaking on the ground level actually comes right up and being reported at the Noumea Convention Conference of Parties. So undertaking, and then, yes, not leaving anyone out, but associations, some hotel associations. So you would come into sector plans as a stakeholder in the larger scheme of things. And the sector plan is actually where they have the multi-sectorial approach on bringing in all relevant stakeholders contributing to the requirements and obligations of the Noumea Convention. So you see there, let's take the EIA concept or principle or obligation set out here in the Noumea Convention. EIA is being filtered down to national plan. It comes down to your environment sector plan and so forth and so forth and so forth. I think that's stuff that you know, but we put this up here to demonstrate the relevance of a multilateral environmental agreement, example, the Noumea Convention, how that applies to your everyday work. Okay. And many other conventions, they're like the CBD, the CITES, Akadisa MNRE, CMS, Waste, and Waigani Convention. The SDGs are just as important because they are our global commitments to achieving our sustainable goals. And these are anticipated to be here. That's a very short presentation from us. If you have any questions, my acting director is also here, and Greg is online. But that's a short presentation of what the Noumea Convention does for EIA, or our obligation to implement EIA is part of our obligation to the Noumea Convention. So these are all linked, and that's how Samoa meets the requirements under the Noumea Convention. And so when Samoa comes to the Noumea Convention COP meeting, this is what they will report. They're required to inform other members, other parties to the Noumea Convention, that this is how we've implemented Article 16 on EIA. So we have enacted this law. This FUMA legislation tells us to carry out this. We have implemented the EIA coastal tourism guidelines, so forth and so forth. That's to complement the knowledge you've obtained in the last 2 days, because I'm sure that you're wondering, well, where does EIA come from? Did it just come out of nowhere? But like I said, newsflash, it's been around since the 1980s. And many member countries have just started to develop, and with good reasons. One of them is capacity. Having the technical knowledge to understand what is an EIA, what it entails, what does it require, and the other consideration is that access to learning. Only very recently, member countries have been able to send off their people to study subjects that are related to EIA. So, and I believe only very recently has Samoa just mapped out, well, what do we need to study in order to be proficient in EIA? What subjects? So those considerations were only just recently developed, and probably why we've taken long to implement EIA.
Thank you very much. That was a really good presentation, and I think it really opened our minds as well as to the bigger picture. Like you said, sometimes I think in the work that we do, we are tunnel vision to only see the boundaries of our work, but it's really good to see how this all joins, especially in the regional level. And so thank you for that. And I think I just wanted to ask a question on, so what are the implications for us if we do not meet the activities under that agreement that we have signed to? And I suppose another further question is to that is, what are the baseline targets that we need to achieve in order to say that, we are healthily satisfying the conditions of the agreement? Is there a target number of EIA? Is it like that? How is the reporting being done to it? So is it based on the number of EIAs, or do you assess the development? So I'm just curious on that, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Untile. That's
There's another question there that you answered. Sorry, thank you for the good presentation. In the area of deep sea mining, I thought I heard that one too. They also talk about the overarching UNCLOS, the law of the sea, and Madan guidelines. So are these other documents considered as well in the Atlantic?
Very, very excellent questions, and I'm happy that these are being raised. For today's first questions on what are the consequences if a country like Samoa does not comply or doesn't carry out their obligations under a convention, Noumea Convention. This is why I'm going to say multilateralism, meaning cooperation between countries. Multilateralism is always the subject of big conferences, and it's all about regional cooperation. Because one country cannot tell another country what to do because of the principle of sovereignty. So we will not be told off by another country for not undertaking our obligations. But when a country expresses their willingness to be part of the global community, we have an obligation to other countries. We made a promise, we've given our undertaking that we will abide by these global rules or regional rules. So think of the consequences. So if someone then decides, no, we're not going to do that, well, many things can happen. One is that many countries will look at you and say, you know, this country is not, or their pollutants are coming into our waters, so it can affect trade. Countries may decide, no, we won't be trading with Samoa unless they, comply. Very similar to what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. That's too far away. Other things can happen is that we lose protection of our environment, and these are all being done so that we take care of our environment, not only within our boundaries but also outside our boundaries. So when countries like Samoa express that we are going to be bound by this, it's a very, very serious undertaking. And if we don't, we risk, being, left out, basically. The second question on reporting. The reporting is much more strategic in the sense that it talks about not only just activities, but in a very strategic way. So for example, if PUMA were asked to provide information to MNRE on what they've been doing on EIA, so your reporting will be data as well. But what the Noumea Convention really wants to see is how the work on EIAs have impacted the protection of our environment. How is that working in terms of protection of our natural environment? MNRE may decide to include your numbers as well, but the way the reporting template is, it's a series of questions given to member countries like Samoa, and the information then that we get is what we put in the meeting reports, the outcome of the convention meeting report. It's much like it's similar to other convention reporting, where you have more like an overall outlook in order to meet the obligations of the Noumea Convention. So that's one. the question on the Noumea Convention and its linkages to UNCLOS. Law of the Sea was signed and adopted in 1982. So obviously, the agreements, the Regional Seas Program that developed after that was all a result of the UNCLOS 1982. And in fact, the Regional Seas Convention was really a byproduct of that. It's really to ensure that regional seas all over the world focused on the protection of the marine environment and basically to ensure that activities such as the seabed were well regulated and governed under appropriate national authorities. So even in 1986, deep seabed mining, the concept of it already had existed, but it's only just now recently that we've begun to take it more seriously. I can say, did you add anything else?
I have nothing to add. And Samoa is the chair of the convention. So Afele came in and led the parties in 16. So that is a sign of commitment by the government. Politically, it's there. So if we are not enforcing our law, enforcing our policies with regard to this convention, how will our face look into the regional partners? So thinking about implications, we can go down detail and we can go down strategic. So there are countries. Excellent. In terms of baseline, the report of this year will be the baseline for the report for next year. Just to see how committed you are. You're talking about terms of reference, maybe in the next reporting. So UMA has endorsed the development terms of reference to assist in EIA processes. That is a big achievement that shows commitment. There's a question there.
No, I just wanted to add with regards to reporting. Every convention they have their own report period. I think every 2 years.
Yes.
And they always provide the reporting templates. For example, the Convention on Diversity. The recent report that was submitted in 2016.
Yeah.
And, they more are looking to special planning kind of reporting on templates rather than text. So it's but I think citing every 2 years
It's a good question because, learning from this today, you would see it's very good for us to make. And I wouldn't know what if we were contributing to that report in that sense. So who is, if you don't mind, a subsidiary question, who is collaborating or compiling the reporting for the Noumea Convention in particular? If you don't mind me asking that ignorant questions.
No information purposes. So here at SPRIP, the focal point or the contact point for SPRIP to the government of Samoa is Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment. So everything from here, we send it to the MNRE. So they coordinate what's required. So yes, so that's it.
Oh,
Yeah, I just want to add on that. It's good that we have been discussing Noumea Convention with this workshop and the previous one. First, I know the implementation of Noumea Convention was not that effective And when I came on board, I learned that Noumea Convention is really see, but the roles of implementing different activities was not very clear because MWTI3 Maritime is also involved with the cases related to oil spill and other activities from the Noumea Convention. So yeah, the last COP meeting we attended, and we learned that the last reporting as reported by the station, and I was not aware of who exactly prepared the report. So yeah, but we were told we got the template, but the report has to be prepared in 6 months, but we had to circulate the template to all other relevant agencies to get the information.
Yeah, I only say because I don't ever remember in my close to 10 years of people contributing to the report. So I think this is a good networking that we have now that we can share our data and hopefully report accurate, progress in our how we're trying to achieve this change.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you very much. May I suggest something? Because next part of our program is a panel for us to hear about Talanoa. We are in the mode of that now. Yeah. So may I request that we close this one now, and then we can reopen it again to include other topics that we've covered. You agree? Otherwise, we'll talk Noumea Convention until we have one. You agree? Yes. Craig. How's that? Doesn't that sound, Mike?
Yeah, sounds good. Well,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And before we go into plenary, one question. I want to raise one question from this excellent presentation. Do STA needs to report to the Noumea Convention also? Yes or not? I'm not asking the question to STA alone, it's for the whole team.
We say yes.
Do they say yes? Who says no? Do STA needs to report to the Noumea Convention too?
Yes,
Yes, but
Yes, they have to. So, okay, see, now we're ready to things. We need some coordination from ACPMEA3. Yes, it's a matter of we had the FACE meeting in Nauru. The secretary from Nauru wrote in a letter, Chope, can you help me out with these letters? The letters from the secretary, MEAs. And it's just not aware on what to do with those letters. So just okay, colleagues, let's give a round of applause to yes, I think yes.
Under Article 7, you report to MNRE because any coastal.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, and can we go down to Article 7? Even mining and coastal erosion. Even mining and coastal erosion. So these are the few articles that member countries, Thailand, Samoa. Samoa was totally behind the development of coastal tourism, guys. Coastal tourism, yeah. Samoa was one of the countries that raised the flag. We must have one. Set. Okay, colleagues. Now we're coming to the end of our Talanoa, and it's plenary times. It's 12:22 my time. We want to close this by 1 o'clock. To the point, the way forward, on the way forward. To the point, we want this. How can we do this? From STA, please do that. Because we can go up to 2 o'clock. But let's put 1 o'clock as our target for this planning. The floor is open. Floor is open. Floor is open. You need guidance on what you have to do. So again, now we do this extra awareness, this particular. Say you come down to Puma. Let's put them down. It's just like a list of everything. Yes, sir.
Thank you for having this workshop has been an excellent starting point from the tourism point of view, and maybe we get other workshops later on to improve all EIAs from other like MNRE and sections focus on that's the
We would love to have a more practical EIA exercise. Just will be very bad person.
Yes.
I like that.
We have an addition.
Please sit.
Just to add on what Nicholas mentioned, I think it will also be good because it seems like that the roles and the responsibilities of the agencies throughout this EIA process is very unclear. Maybe it's clear at the CEO level, but at the ground level it's very clear, especially in terms of the monitoring. Who does the monitoring of this and that? I think it's another tool that we want to see. Thank you.